दिन 12 से 4 बजे तक। चिकन और लेम कड़ी 2 रोटी के साथ सिर्फ 6 पाउंड में। मिक्स वेजिटेबल कड़ी और तड़का दाल 2 रोटी के साथ 5 पाउंड में। तो ऑर्डर करें अभी देसी रेस्टोरेंट online.com पर और ऑनलाइन पेमेंट करें बिल्कुल सेफली और कॉल कर सकते हैं 01733555795। हमारे पास डिलीवरी भी मौजूद है और 10% डिस्काउंट के साथ आप खुद कलेक्ट भी कर सकते हैं। 298 लिंकन रोड, पीटरब्रो, PE1 2ND। देसी रेस्टोरेंट, आपका अपना पसंदीदा और मयारी खाने अब पीटरब्रो में।
Everyone can now get free rapid COVID-19 tests twice a week. They show your results within 30 minutes. They also show you're doing what you can to protect your loved ones, your friends, your workmates, and that you want to keep life moving again. Around 1 in 3 people who have COVID-19 have no symptoms and are spreading it without knowing. That could be a friend, a relative, a workmate. It could even be you. Rapid tests are easy to get from nhs.uk/get tested. Let's take this next step safely.
If you want to learn about Islam and Muslims, stay tuned to Salam Radio 106.2 FM.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. You're tuned into Salam Radio live on 106.2 FM in the Peterborough area and streaming live to Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. I'm your host today alongside Brother Muzaffar. We will be with you for our brand new show. It's a second show, Deen Dunya, for the next hour up until 9:30. As usual, you're welcome to interact with the show by texting 07411191062 or commenting on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube or Twitter. If you're listening to the recording on social media, you're welcome to comment on that, and inshallah myself or Brother Muzaffar or somebody from the station will respond to that. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Muzaffar. How are you?
Assalamu wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, good. How's your week been?
Yeah, it's good. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Same old.
Same old, same old.
Yeah.
I've had an interesting week off social media. I won't go into too many details on why I've not been on social media, but it's been quite good actually, away from Facebook and WhatsApp. But I'm missing all my chatter on WhatsApp, all the work and masjid related stuff. So hopefully I can get back on that.
Okay,
that's been quite interesting.
Inshallah. But I think it's good to have a little bit break as well.
Yeah, it is. It is when you don't.
But if it's not your choice, then it's
no. That's the thing, isn't it? So sometimes I do take a break from these things. So sometimes I'll have like a day where I'm not going to go on. Like on a Saturday, I try not to go on Facebook or WhatsApp, and other than check once or twice a day the messages, because I just find this information overload nowadays.
Yeah, it's too many messages and too many groups, and sometimes you miss some of them, and you know.
Yeah, I think the issue is sometimes you miss the important stuff.
Ones,
yeah. So like important, meetings and things like that, you end up missing, and it's all the non-important stuff that we end up concentrating on. But last week was interesting topics. We went through the title of the show. I don't know if you can remember, and we touched
we
on
talked about why we chose this title, and what is Deen and what is Dunya.
Yeah.
So I think we said that Deen and Dunya are linked. They're not. You can't separate them.
No.
And I think I gave an example of. Whatever we sow here, whatever we will reap the fruits in the hereafter.
Yeah.
So when we say Deen, we mean that we are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are conscious of our life hereafter, the akhirah, the accountability.
Yeah. Like I think I mentioned it last time ago, I was brought up with the understanding that there's Deen and there's Dunya, and you should concentrate on Deen and fight the Dunya. Do you know what I mean? Whereas what made sense to me a lot later on was that actually, Deen and Dunya is the same thing. And in terms of what we do inside the masjid, outside the masjid, we should always be conscious that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us. Because sometimes we have this we get very religious inside certain places, and then in the masjid, for example, and then outside in the marketplace, we're cheating and scamming and doing all sorts of things.
Actually, the purpose of all these ibadat that we do, I mean, salah, prayer and fasting, and it is to prepare us for what we do in dunya and inverted commas. When we walk out of the masjid, as you said, how do we interact with other people? How do we do business? Are we honest? Are we, our morals are according to the Quran and the Sunnah or not? So as I said, it is all interlinked. So you can't separate them. Islam is not, like if you want to become religious, you have to leave this dunya and you go to a monastery or a jungle and you just isolate yourself. No, Islam says you stay within dunya, but you live your dunya according to the teaching of the Deen.
And I just wanted to say to our listeners, inshallah, you're listening, and what I wanted to say was that these topics that we're discussing, they're not random topics. We're actually going from one topic to another, and there's actual reasoning behind this. So the topic today, inshallah, will be the importance of gaining knowledge. And, knowledge is a prerequisite to everything, isn't it? Like, whether we're doing stuff for work.
Yeah.
What do you think? We go on courses, we do this CPD, what they call continued professional development.
Yeah, of course. And knowledge is important for Deen and Dunya. If you want to practice your Deen properly, you have to have knowledge. If you want to progress in dunya, if you want to, have a good job, you want to do well in whatever you're doing, you need to have knowledge. So when we say knowledge, and Islamically as well, in Islam, knowledge is knowledge of both.
That's right,
Deen and the dunya, and that's why, very example comes to my mind that at time of Battle of Badr, there were some prisoners of war. So when some of the Quraysh who were captured as prisoners of war, the Prophet ﷺ said to them, your ransom for your freedom is to teach 10 Muslim children to read and write. So once you've done that, you can go free. So, it shows us how important. And read and write, when we say read and write, it doesn't mean that it's just about Deen. Reading and writing, is beneficial for both Deen and Dunya.
I mean, some of those skills, they are beneficial, like especially like you said, reading and writing, because people in that time, they weren't able, or Arabs of that time weren't skilled in that. But that skill is then applicable to whatever we do. And reading and writing, I mean, if we go this day and age, using a computer or whatever it is, that skill that's needed, like using computer, for example.
That's the foundation, isn't it? Reading and writing for any knowledge.
And there's a phrase that I, you must have come across, knowledge is power. How many times have we heard that phrase? How many times have our teachers, elders, said this thing over and over? But, this quote is actually by somebody named Sir Francis Bacon. And he emphasizes that when you have knowledge, you have authority. And it alludes to the fact there's something about acquiring knowledge that gives you that influence. Because, when we're acquiring knowledge, we're actually... not just like reading what somebody's giving you and regurgitating. It's a bit more than that, isn't it? So we try and kind of make that knowledge ours, if that makes sense what I'm trying to say.
I mean, you can say that there's a difference between information and knowledge. Knowledge, you understand something, and you can practice that in your So if you have knowledge about computers, you would be able to operate it properly. And if you just have information and you don't know how to put that information into practice, maybe that's not considered as knowledge. That would be just information. But as Muslims, I think I would say what differentiate a believer from a non-believer is the knowledge. You have a knowledge of who my creator is. Who is that creator? Then having knowledge of the example of the Prophet ﷺ, as we said, Sunnah. So if you don't have the knowledge of this Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, how are we going to practice our Deen? So Islam is a very practical religion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides us in all aspects of our lives. You know, as last week we discussed that whether it's your personal life, social life, you know, economic life, whatever, you know, or all the issues that we face in this dunya, there is guidance. And if you don't have the knowledge of that guidance, how are you going to practice? So what will be the difference between a non-believer and a believer if they don't have the knowledge of their deen and they don't know how to practice their deen?
And I think we mentioned it last week as well, like if we implement Islam properly in our lives, that's a form of dawah, because people see us, like let's say if we're doing business or we're going to buy something and there's injustice or then somebody's given more change or whatever it is, and we're now returning that because our deen tells us to do this. The person receiving that money back will think, wow, you know, what is it? Or they might question us. Or that simply fact that they know that, oh, this person's a Muslim, he's a good person. You know, that's a way of spreading the...
Yeah, that's a very important point, actually. I don't know whether you come across this. So recently there was a clip shared. I don't know who shared it, but there's a clip. This woman. I think I don't know who this woman is. Yeah, she's an actor or...
Okay.
She's interviewed by what's her name? That very famous interview, American.
No idea who you're talking about.
Oprah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I still don't know, but anyway. I know who Oprah is.
She interviewed this woman, and she asked her, "Have you? Can you describe grace, or have you come across grace?" And she said that it's worth listening to, actually.
Okay.
She said that she went to Indonesia, and she said she was going through some difficult time in her personal life. So she went to this remote island, and she was just, you know, walking on the beach, and, you know, staying in a hut, and, you know, not, you know, she couldn't speak the language. So, but this, she said, while she was walking every day in the morning, this woman, the Muslim woman, she used to say hello, you know, just a sign language. And she said that she fell ill, and she had food poisoning. So she couldn't go for walk, and she was inside her hut where she was staying. And this woman, Muslim woman, who used to come across her and see her in the morning, she started looking for her.
Right.
And she said that she found her, and she said to her, you know, you wait, I'm coming back, like this. And she came back with fresh food and water, and she, you know, looked after her. She said she still couldn't speak, we couldn't communicate verbally because we didn't speak each other's language. But she said, that's my face of Islam, you know, regardless of what this... I see on the media about Islam and Muslims, that's my face of Islam. What that woman, how that woman interacted with me, and she treated me, and the way she was kind to me. And as you say, and if we give that kind of example, and there are so many other examples of this, you know, when you're kind to people, you know, people will not, you know, people will see practically what Islam is, what Muslims are, rather than if you give 100 speeches. But if your character, you are different, and you're not kind, and you are not practicing what you're preaching, then people will not, you know, take any notice.
Yeah, but then it's like you just said. Then the opposite is also true. Like if we then aren't practicing our deen, let's say somebody buys something from me, and I've sold them. Let's say, for example, it's a car. Because I know a lot of people complain about used cars. So let's say we've sold a car, and then that person thinks, oh my God, this is the worst ever thing I've ever bought of this Muslim person.
Yeah.
You know, we're not just doing a disservice to our business ourselves, but the entire religion,
our religion, entire community.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, I teach in the masjid as well, and in my job as well. So that's what I always tell people, you know, you are not representing yourself as an individual. You are representing your religion and your community, you know. And if you give a bad example, people are not going to just say that person was bad. They will say, oh, because he's so and so, he's a Muslim, or he's, you know, whatever. So people, I mean, unfortunately, that's natural. We generalize things, don't we?
We do, yeah.
So people will get, you know, you will be damaging not just yourself, you will be damaging the reputation of your religion and your community.
Yeah, and also I sometimes think, you know, like when I was growing up, I still remember, you know, sometimes I know we should fear Allah, we should, but as kids, I still remember I used to fear what would my parents say. Do you know what I mean? If I did this bad thing, what would my parents say? And I still remember I was chatting to one of the brothers a few years ago, and I said, you know what, the best thing I ever did was get involved in the masjid, because if anything ever does cross my mind, I always think, you know what, I'm not only going to ruin my reputation, but it'll be the reputation of the institution I'm representing, it'll be reputation of my family.
Yeah.
So, these kind of things, we got to think that the consequences of our actions, if we do something which is, if we're saying we're preaching one thing and then we do a complete opposite, and then, later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows anyway. I mean, we should be doing it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala watches, but at the worst case scenario, we should be thinking, you know what, we're not just doing a disservice to ourselves, we're doing disservice to the entire community.
Fear is important.
Yeah.
I actually, it's strange that I was talking to somebody this afternoon, and we're talking, we are saying the same thing. I was saying, look, there are many things I would have done in my childhood when I was growing up, if there was no fear that my dad will find out and I'll get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe that is not there anymore,
It's
nowadays.
not, yeah.
And, so when you're growing up, when you're young, you don't understand these things, why parents are telling us not to do something, But they know because they've been through their experience.
Yeah, my
and
dad's
now
probably
when you
listening
grow
to
up,
this.
we are mature, then you understand, that's why they were telling us.
Yeah,
not to.
no, I was just going to say my dad's probably listening to this, but I still remember my mum used to say to me, you will only find out when you have your own kids. That's when and it's so true. You only find out as you grow older and you have your own, then you think, actually, you know what, my parents said that. And I said that to my eldest son. I said the same thing to him. I said, you will only find out when you get older, then you will understand. Yeah. But the thing is, at least we keep trying and we keep building that kind of thinking and mentality in the next generation.
So it goes back to the topic that we started, knowledge. The parents will have the knowledge. Parents have no knowledge. What are the consequences of these actions? Well, maybe at young age we don't have that. Children don't have that. But because parents have the knowledge, people they have the experience, they've been through. Yeah. So knowledge is very important, yes, of course.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about earlier on today when I was thinking about what we're going to talk about in this topic, and it reminded me of when my son was learning the hadith in the masjid, when they're memorizing that hadith book. In the first hadith that they learn, sorry, not hadith, the dua is that Rabbi zidni ilma. Allah increase me in my knowledge. That's the first dua that kids are learning in our masjid. That's something which, not just in that particular hadith book, if we look in any hadith book, importance of knowledge and intention, those two topics seem to come right at the front.
And that's very important, but if you think about it, this dua is not just for children.
No.
We all have to make this dua.
That's true.
And there's no limit what age you. So what it teaches us that as Muslims, we continues to increase our knowledge. We shouldn't stop now. I'm 40, I'm 50, I'm 60 now. That's it. No, this dua is for whole of our life, and we should increase. And that, I think there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ as well that you said, seek knowledge from cradle to grave.
Yeah, I've found some similar hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said that seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. But the one that it's not related directly to this topic, but you'll know this, Brother Muzaffar, is when the Prophet ﷺ said, when a man dies, all his deeds come to an end except for three: ongoing charity, beneficial knowledge, and a righteous son who prays for him. But I was thinking more about that beneficial knowledge thing, and that's why having knowledge, implementing it, it's because, like I think you mentioned at the beginning, the difference between knowledge and information. So information is something you just regurgitate. Sometimes when we're in school, we learn these things to pass a test, and that's it. And then, I sometimes look at the science work my son's doing, and I think, gosh, I don't remember any of this. It's because for me, it was just about passing the exam. Whereas knowledge is more about implementation and then understanding. And then sharing that knowledge, then whether it's with your children or people around you.
Yeah, but this hadith is very profound. If, as you said earlier, knowledge is power. Yeah. Knowledge can change people's lives. Yeah. As we say, I'm sure many time we heard about charities who work in education, provide education to children, and they say that through knowledge. They want to transform people's lives, and they want to take people out of poverty. Yeah. So knowledge is something that can change people's life, and that can be a sadaqah jariyah, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think knowledge is. Sometimes sometimes listening to even a khutbah, I'm just thinking of Jummah Khutbahs, for example. I still remember, I think Sheikh Mahmood might have mentioned this. He was talking about the importance of Salah, and he's actually talking about importance of praying in the masjid. So what happens to me usually is I listen to that, I think, you know what, it's really important to pray in the masjid. So I'll start praying in the masjid because I've heard him say that. Then it will kind of die off, after a few weeks, and I'm back to square one. But one thing that did kind of stick with me is that he mentioned about praying the importance of praying two sunnah. And I must admit, of Fajr I'm talking about here, I must admit in the past what I would do is I'd pray the fard and get back into bed and go to sleep. Because I'm not really, maybe I've read about the importance of the sunnah. I've read about, the importance of not just jumping back into bed and those type of things. But it's when you actually, somebody shares it with you, but then you look into it yourself. You know what I mean? Sometimes listening to a speech doesn't make no difference to some people. Some people just, from my experience anyway, is that I need to actually then look into it. Actually, yeah, this is what it does say. And then it makes me think more, and it affects my actions then. And I think that's the key thing I'm trying to get across, is that knowledge by itself, and until we actually learn it, understand it, truly believe it, and then implement
Understanding
it.
is important. That's what you're saying, is that if we know the reasons why we have to do this, obviously, then we'll give it more importance. And so that's why it's important that when we are teaching our children, we try to explain to them, or if, say, for example, we are telling them to do something, if we try to explain to them what are the benefits of this, or why we are telling you to do this, how you can, in future you will appreciate this. Maybe if you give them the reasons, they will, they will practice on that. And if you just tell them, you have to do this, and they don't know why they have to do it, is what's the benefit of this, then obviously they might do it when they are, they are fearful of you. But they will not have really a real understanding of it.
No.
So it's important to, and that's why if you look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, he used to give analogies, an example, parables, examples to make people understand what he was teaching them.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about the point you were making about teaching kids, because I remember when I was growing up, I learned the Salah in Arabic very badly. But, we learned it, we were praying and everything, but didn't understand a word. Whereas what we're doing with kids nowadays, they're actually understanding what they're reading, which I think is like at least the first step, is understanding what we're reading, what it means. Because if we don't understand it, okay, yes, we will get the reward for it. Reading the Quran, for example. If we just read, I think we'll touch on this after the break. We're just kind of jumping at the topic, but that's one step, isn't it, to actually know the meaning of what we're reading.
Yeah, as I said earlier, if we don't know what we're saying, I mean, say take Surah Fatiha for example. If you look at the meaning, it says, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we say who Allah is. He's all merciful and all kind. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we only worship you, and we only seek help from you, and guide us to the straight path. And but if you don't know if you're just repeating and reciting the Arabic, and you don't know what it means, it's not going to come from your bottom of your heart, But dua should come from bottom of your heart. You should know what you are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then again, you should know the importance of, why I'm asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide me to straight path. What is that straight path? So that will give you, more of a reason to learn more and understand more. And if you're just reciting, I think, we'll touch on that, importance of understanding or
the
Quran, and how, unfortunately, as Muslims, we at the moment, treat the Quran.
And I think another topic kind of related to this I wanted to touch on was, very briefly, is, sometimes we judge people by the appearance. What I'm trying to get at is we might see somebody dressed in Western clothes and say, oh, he's a bit westernized. And then we might see somebody dressed in like traditional Arabic clothes. We say, mashallah, he's very religious. But the thing is, we don't know what conclusion they came to wearing those clothes. So, for example, the person wearing the westernized clothes, he might be thinking, actually, this is quite loose. This is covering my aura. and this is sufficient for me, and this is good enough to for me to implement the rules of Islam. Same with a woman. She might be wearing, covering her hair, she might be wearing loose clothing, but she might not be covering her face or anything like that. Whereas we'll see a woman covering her face and you say, mashallah, she's very religious. So sometimes what we end up doing is we end up judging people by what we see apparently. This is the way we are as human beings. Whereas the person who's wearing those Arabic clothes might have been wearing them because his dad told him to wear them, or he's seen his dad wearing them. Do you see what I'm getting at? And the same with the woman. And sometimes I see this with people coming from certain Arabic countries to the UK, and then when they come here, you'll see them wearing completely, off the track clothes. Do you know what I mean? So, there's some things I think as Muslims we just turn it into a cultural thing, and the same thing could happen with prayer, unfortunately, couldn't it? Like we could just end up doing it because our parents made us do it, but we don't really know why we're doing it.
I mean, it's what really Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at, as it Allah's Prophet said, Allah doesn't look at what you look like, He looks at your hearts, what your intentions are. So you can't judge a person, we shouldn't be judging anyway, but we can't judge a person's taqwa and how pious this person is because of his or her clothes, It's what's in your heart, it's what's your manners and morals. I think I shared this hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said that there will be people on the day of judgment, they will not bring a lot of prayers and a lot of fasting and a lot of charity, meaning that they will not, when say prayer, is not talking about fard prayer, it's talking about extra optional prayers. But because of their morals and their manners, their akhlaq, and how they interacted with people, they will go to Jannah. So that's more important rather than what we look like and what we dress like and how long is our beard and
exactly.
These things are important as well because we say they are sunnah, but that's not the criteria that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to judge you on.
No. So I think there's quite a few topics there we've kind of touched on. The most important thing was about the importance of knowledge, how we acquire that knowledge, what effect that knowledge should have, and inshallah after the break we'll carry on this discussion on the importance of the Quran and how we should treat the Quran, and that's a way where we get the knowledge. So inshallah, please stay tuned and we'll catch you back after the break. Assalamu alaikum.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Looking to improve your living space? Plan your dream home with AB Joinery Kitchens and Bedrooms. We design, manufacture and install your perfect kitchen or bedroom to your personal space and taste with clever storage utilising every inch. We pride ourselves on our exquisite attention to detail. Let AB Joinery Kitchens and Bedrooms plan your perfectly tailored space fitted around you. We also offer bespoke services for understairs storage, TV units and feature walls, all designed and manufactured by us. Call us now on 01733 686 767 or visit abjkitchensandbedrooms.co.uk. Open to the trade and public. AB Joinery Kitchens and Bedrooms, Unit 3 Brassey Close, Peterborough, PE1 2AZ. Plan your dream home with us. abjkitchensandbedrooms.co.uk.
Everyone can now get free rapid COVID-19 tests twice a week. They show your results within 30 minutes. They also show you're doing what you can to protect your loved ones, your friends, your workmates, and that you want to keep life moving again. Around 1 in 3 people who have COVID-19 have no symptoms and are spreading it without knowing. That could be a friend, a relative, a workmate. It could even be you. Rapid tests are easy to get from nhs.uk/get tested. Let's take this next step safely.
Mart Food Store, Lincoln Road, Triangle, te inna rush. O balle hoy tusani amba ne pure mulke vich rolle.
Pakistani sogatan di amba la lo, jamnu la lo. Pakistani taze mithe amba te jamnu aa gaye ji.
ਯਕੀਨ ਕਰੋ ਜੀ ਭਾਈ ਨਾ ਮਾਰ ਫੂਡ ਸਟੋਰ ਵਾਲੇ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਵਰਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਤੋਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਬ੍ਰਾਂਡ ਦਾ ਅੰਬ ਮੰਗਵਾ ਕੇ ਪੂਰੇ ਯੂਕੇ ਨੂੰ ਨਸ਼ ਲਵਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨੀ ਜਾਮਣੂ ਵੀ ਭਾਈ ਉਹ ਜਨੇ ਨੇ ਆ ਪੁੱਤਰ
Amar Food Stores, Al Mashoor, fresh halal meat and groceries. Address 613B, Lincoln Road, Triangle, Peterborough. Telephone 01733 687374. Amar Food Stores, Meyar ka naam, munasib daam.
Bowel cancer screening saves lives. The NHS sends everyone aged 60 to 74 a free home testing kit every 2 years. Using this test is easy and hygienic. Ask your parents and grandparents whether they have completed their screening kit. Find out more by visiting Cambridgeshire and Peterborough ccg.nhs.uk and searching bowel cancer.
Did you know that over 361,000 children die every year due to lack of clean water? Clean water is not a luxury, but a basic human right. UKIM is working to end their suffering by providing clean and safe water. This Ramadan, make a difference. Provide clean and safe water with UKIM. For donations, call now or visit ukim.org.
Do you own a restaurant or takeaway? Cater Fair is an expert supplier of new and used commercial catering equipment. Visit caterfair.co.uk for quality equipment on sale at the lowest prices, or call us on 01733 310 115 or visit us at 11 Royce Road, Fengate, Peterborough.
Facebook at Salam Radio.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back, dear listeners. You're tuned into Salam Radio, live on 106.2 FM in the Peterborough area and streaming live to Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Welcome back, Brother Muzaffar.
Jazakallah, thank you.
So we are on our topic of the Quran. So we've spoken about knowledge. Quran's obviously, as Muslims, primary source of knowledge for us. And unfortunately, we don't treat the Quran the way it ought to be treated as a community, as individuals, as a family, whichever way you look at it. Because from my understanding, the purpose of the Quran is for it to be read, for it to be understood, for it to be acted upon, and with its help, is to allow the Deen to be established on the earth, and the Deen to be implemented on the earth. And if we look at history, we can see when Muslims, as a collective, as a ummah, when they did this, they were leaders of the world. They not only see sometimes as a community we think of empire building. So we think, okay, how can I make lots of money, or how can I leave lots of wealth for my children or my community, or whichever way we do it. We always think of building empires and buildings and things like that, whereas the earlier communities and even ones after that, theirs was to establish the Deen, and then they got the fruits of the economy, they got the fruits of the wealth, and everything came later on. But then obviously history with decline and everything, that's another story. But this is my understanding. The real actual purpose of the Quran is for it to be implemented on this earth.
You're right. We are, alhamdulillah, we're Muslims, we're born Muslims. That's a great blessing. I think we touched on that last week. We believe that Quran is the word of God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and it's not been changed. It is exactly how it was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, and it's preserved. And this is as you say, the foundation of guidance, foundation of our Deen, Islam. If we don't understand it, how are we going to practice? And you mentioned there are some rights the Quran has over us as believers who claim that we believe in the Quran and we accept it as the word of God and we accept it as the guidance. And then they say there are the scholars of the rights. The first right is that we believe in it, that is the word of God, and it is preserved and it is exactly as it was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. Then we learn to read it. And then we understand it, and then we practice it, and then we pass it on to others. So these are the rights the Quran has over us. But, we, alhamdulillah, most of us do believe that this is a word of Allah.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to understanding it, I think that's where we fall short.
Yeah.
It's revealed in Arabic. It's in Arabic, the Quran. But it's only about 15% of the Muslims who are Arabs.
Yeah.
Rest 85% is non-Arabs who can't read, speak or understand Arabic. But now, alhamdulillah, we don't have that excuse to say that we can't understand because it's in Arabic, because we can read in any other language, translation, tafsir.
Yeah.
But how many of us do really make an effort to try to understand it?
Yeah.
Obviously, if you want to understand it fully, Arabic is the best way of learn Arabic, but how many of us can do that?
Yeah.
But then that shouldn't be an excuse for us to say I can't understand because I don't speak Arabic.
Yeah, I think the key thing, what you're trying to say, the way I'm understanding it, is that ideal is to learn the Arabic. I've been through this many times as well, But the thing is, learning Arabic does actually help. Even if, let's say, for example, I can't speak Arabic to save my life, but when I actually listen to the Quran or I read it, because I know those certain words, I've got a little bit of idea of the grammar. Even if I don't look at the translation, I've got a gist of what this is saying. And I'll be honest, I appreciate the Quran more now that I've done Arabic class about 3-4 times, the same thing over and over. I only get to a certain level and then I give up on it. But, like you say, there's so many resources out there available to us. Not just in book form. We've got apps on the phones. We've got lessons. There's Quran classes online, recordings, lectures. So much out there, and we've got so much access to scholars as well. Whether it's locally, nationally, internationally. There's people are accessible to us.
Nowadays it's no excuse for anybody to say that they didn't have any opportunity to. Learn, but unfortunately the problem is that we kind of it's within our culture. I'm talking about our community, Pakistani community, Indian subcontinent community. We read the Quran as for blessings. We just read it. Of course, reading in Arabic, as we know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that every letter that we read, we get 10 good deeds for it, 10 rewards. So we feel that just reading in Nazra, reading how, in Arabic, and that's enough, and that's it. We've done our job, and this is kind of sad and a little bit funny as well. That I remember a long time ago, in the masjids, one of the boys left the class. He did stop attending the class, and I asked the father, and I said, your son stopped coming to the masjid, and the father said, oh, he's finished the Quran now, meaning that he can read the Quran now. And for him that was enough, that he could read the Quran in Arabic, and that's it. Now he doesn't need to come to the masjid. But Quran, as we said earlier, if you don't understand, as we said about the salah, if we don't understand what we're saying in salah, how will it come from our heart? Will we understand what we are saying? So similarly, if the Quran is the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if we don't understand what it's saying to us, say, take an example that somebody writes a letter in a language that you don't understand. Or me, or it's an important letter. We will go, find somebody who can read that and translate that for us. But this is a letter from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, and telling us how we can be successful in this life and the life after. So actually the Quran's teaching is the guarantee for us for success in this life and the life after. But how much an effort do we put in to actually understand, read with the translation? And I think last week we gave example, this new Muslim brother who recently accepted Islam. He said he read the Quran 3 times, cover to cover, before he accepted Islam. And we were saying that how many of us actually have done that.
We take it for granted, isn't it? And I'm just speaking again from my own experience. Maybe other person listening, maybe he or she's got similar experience, and I think you kind of touched on it. I don't think it's just our community. I think generally as a Muslim community, we understand the Quran is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know how sacred the text is. We know it's different to the hadith in that even the language, when we listen to it being recited, sometimes I even though I don't understand it, I get goosebumps. And I've heard other people say, people say that, I get this feeling when I'm listening to it, and even non-Muslims, I've seen videos on YouTube where
people have tears in their eyes.
They have tears in their eyes. They don't understand what is being said. So there are miracles and amazing things with the Quran, but I think what we've done is we've kind of, as a cultural thing, which we should anyway. I'm not saying we shouldn't do this. We should treat the Quran with respect. It should go on the top shelf, on the highest space in your bookshelf or whatever. We have this culture of, wrapping it up so it doesn't get dust, it stays nice and pristine, which is fine. Alhamdulillah, we should do that. However, that's where it all ends then. Because we think, oh no, this is very important, can't touch this, it's got to be up there. We've made it inaccessible to ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Whereas everything else is, switch on the TV, is there accessible, and the Quran's packed away. I don't know, I can't remember what you call that thing, but you've cover, yeah. So that cover,
it's
is
made
wrapped
of silk
up,
and very nice cloth, and
and is wrapped away, and that's it. That's the end of that. Whereas, we shouldn't let it gather dust, but that doesn't mean we don't touch it. It means that we shouldn't just leave it on the bookshelf. It's a speech of Allah.
The example is given that it's a prescription, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a prescription for all our illnesses in this dunya. Whether these illnesses, the heart, these illnesses of corruption, disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if it's a prescription from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's just take an example that if you go to the doctor, you have headache or whatever, and doctor writes a prescription, and you just start reading it. You don't go to the doctor, pharmacy, get the medicine, take it, and you're not going to get better. So similarly, if it's a prescription for all our problems and issues, if we don't understand it and we don't practice it, how are we going to, our issues and problems will be solved?
And I was thinking about that example that you gave, and the way I kind of understand that is that, for example, like we do this a lot as well, is that we put the Quran in a house or in a room to protect the house from jinn and those type of things, which fine, we should do that. And also, we some people, what they do is they put amulets on to protect themselves and those type of things. But then if you look at the example that you kind of mentioned about the doctor's prescription and things, the prescription is there to be implemented. Do you know what I mean? Let's say, for example, if I take that prescription and I put it into an amulet, or I do something with that, but not actually take it further and get the medicine and eat the medicine and do those type of things. Same with the Quran. Yes, we should read it. It's a cure. We should read Surah Al-Fatiha. We should read Surah Al-Falaq, Surah Nas. These things do protect us.
Of course.
And it says it there that this is a protection from, whisperings of shaitan and, from envy and all those type of things. So we should read those. However, if we're reading those, we don't understand those. That's one problem. But then what about the rest of the Quran? How do we implement what's written in there if we don't know what it says?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And we will not fulfill the purpose of it. The purpose of the Quran is as they say that we read Surah Fatiha is the opening of the Quran. It says, Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. Oh Allah, guide us to the straight path. And the rest of the Quran, the scholars say, rest of the Quran, the answer.
Exactly.
Answer of that dua. That Allah subhanahu, you said, guide me to the straight path, guide us to the straight path, oh Allah. And I'll say, here it is. Here is the Quran. This is the guidance. So if you don't understand the guidance, we don't know. It's just like if we have a map, navigation. If we don't know how to follow the navigation, how to understand the map, we're not going to find the way. So this is a navigation. Our navigation is this dunya to get to the to Jannah, inshallah. So we should make an effort to understand the Quran. Whatever we read, we must also read with the translation. We should reflect on it. Say that. Sometimes what happens is that we read the stories in the Quran, for example, stories of the
previous prophets,
the previous prophets, story of the Pharaoh, and so many other stories, and we take it as a story, but it's not a story; it's a lesson in it, and that's why if you look at the stories in the Quran, they don't give great details of when it happens and details of dates and years.
Yeah,
and,
it's not a history book.
It's not a history book.
Yeah.
It's just those stories are there for us to take lessons from it.
Yeah.
And so if we don't understand then what it says in the story, what are the lessons for us, then we're not fulfilling the purpose of why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Quran. And that's why I think unfortunately the state that we are in as Muslims, maybe we're far away from our deen. The main reason is that we haven't understood the Quran, and we didn't try to understand the Quran, and we're not able to fulfill the responsibilities.
Yeah, and I think it's also the other important aspect of it is that we're not accessing the Quran directly nowadays. What I'm trying to say is that, let's say for example, we say, okay, what do we as Muslims believe? We believe in the ayah amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rasulihi wal yawmil akhir, and then the hadith wa qadrihi wa sharihi. But we've not learned. If we've not learned that from the Quran, we've learned that from somewhere else. We're not attaching ourselves with the Quran, even though it comes from the Quran, but we've read it in a book somewhere. And it is a book. Let's say, actually, I'll give you an example of prayer. We know that prayer is mentioned in the Quran, and how you pray is mentioned in the Sunnah. Yes, we should refer back to scholars. I'm not saying that we should access these sources directly and start giving our own rulings. That's not what I'm getting at. But we should still have a connection with the direct source. And we should also reflect on that as well, like you were saying. Certain things, even I was even thinking of the example of inheritance. Like if we come across these verses over and over in, for example, Tarawih prayer, we listen to them. They're there, but how many of us know what that means? That is in this particular surah. It's mentioned here. These are all the rules to do with inheritance. But what would happen to us is that we either will ignore these rules, or we'll say, okay, let me just find out the rules of inheritance, which is what we should we should refer back to scholars and whatever. But we shouldn't neglect the fact that this is the source of the rules.
I mean, yeah, you touch on a very important point. This is also, I think, some kind of cultural norm in our society, in our community, that we think that Quran is only to be read by the ulama and the scholars. Of course, we need ulamas and we need scholars, but Quran is revealed for every it's more than us. It's
not just Muslims,
humans, human beings. It's every individual, but we have different capacities, and scholars are there to, as you say, give fatwas and verdicts and take points, pick points from it. And but as far as the guidance is concerned, when the Quran is talking about the akhirah, Jannah and Jahannam, and telling us about the morals and the manners, that don't tell lies and fulfill your promises and be kind, and these are all, everybody can benefit from that. So the Quran it's important that we as individuals, as Muslims, understand that Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to all of us. As individuals, Allah is talking to us, and so we shouldn't just say that because ulama are reading it and they understand it and they're going to make speeches to us. That's not fulfilling our responsibility. Our responsibility is that we look at the Quran ourselves, we reflect on, and why is it that there's maybe thousands of hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ, the virtues of reading the Quran and virtues of having a relationship with the Quran, and how important it is to read Quran regularly. And then different surahs, for example, Prophet ﷺ said, on this day you read this surah, on this day you read this surah, before you go to bed, read surah Mulk, on Friday you say read surah Kaf, and if you read any house where surah Baqarah is read, you will be free of all the ailments and issues and problems. So why is it that Prophet ﷺ emphasized so much? Emphasized for everybody. It's not just for ulama and scholars.
No,
it's for all of us. And once we get that that is in the importance of the Quran and reading and understanding the Quran, I think our lives will change.
Definitely. And I think I'm hopeful that a lot of people are minimum doing that, or aspiring to do that. And I think the easiest way, in my experience, is you just set aside time. Think in your mind, what's a reasonable amount of time I could give the Quran? There's 24 hours in the day. How many minutes is that? That's thousands of minutes. I can't remember how many it is, but it's
168 hours in a week.
Yeah, 160 hours in a week. If we can't, let's say out of the 24 hours of the day, if we can't give the Quran, let's say even 30 minutes or 20 minutes or 15 minutes, I would say, think of the smallest amount. I say this to my kids sometimes. I said, just read the Quran 10 minutes a day. Let's just read it, just read it for 10 minutes. How long is that going to take? It's going to take 10 minutes. How long do you spend on the Xbox?
Yeah.
How long do we spend flicking the TV?
Yeah, how long do we spend on WhatsApp and
Facebook,
social media and Facebook
and every other social media out there? So we could spend hours and hours and hours trawling through lots of the same stuff, but we can't give 10 or 15 minutes just to recite the Quran, and maybe a few more minutes to reflect upon its meaning. Pick surah the 30th juz is a good surah to juz to start with. Start with that, look at the meaning, and then what you've mentioned, reflect on that. What does it mean to me? And then go deeper into it.
If you say, for example, normally, when we do our salah, we recite short surahs from 30th para.
Yeah.
And if we know the meanings of those,
and
you will see the difference, in your prayers. You will be more, we will be able to focus more, and you will concentrate more. And otherwise, what happens is that if you don't know what you're reciting, what you're reading, your mind will,
you're right.
You're not focusing. You'll be thinking other things, and you're just reciting the words. But if you knew the meanings, and that's why I think one of the ways that we can have the concentration, khushu in our salah is that we know the meanings. So we know the meanings of salah. We know the meanings of surah that we're reading, and that will improve our prayers as well.
I totally 100% agree with you. Certain, like for example, Surah Fatiha. In my mind, Surah Fatiha, Surah Ikhlas, Surah Falak, Surah Nas, these are very common surahs that we read. And, I got into a habit, I think it's the beginning of this whole lockdown thing. I think I mentioned it to you before. We've got this poster in the masjid which explains what to read after Salah.
The azkar
after Salah. And I got into a habit of reading Ayatul Kursi, and I didn't know the full proper meaning in English. So I thought, let's learn in fact, I didn't even have it memorized, Ayatul Kursi. So I memorized it. I had Surah Falak and Surah Nas memorized, but I had an idea of the meaning. But let's learn the meaning as well. And when I'm reciting these, I'm thinking about the meanings when I'm reciting them. And I find, me personally, that helps me, like you say, concentrate.
Yeah.
But at least we're then understanding what it says as well, I think, which is the most important thing.
And then also, I think we are nearly azan time, isn't it?
Yeah, a few minutes,
but
seconds.
it's important that we, as you said earlier, have an attachment with the masjid. If you go to the masjid, the imams will give us the reminders, and they recite the surahs of the Quran, and encourage, and that will motivate us to do things.
I think we'll carry on with that point next week, inshallah. The importance of classes, Quran classes, attachment to the masjid, and how that can enhance our attachment to the Quran. And then also we will go into the topic of the true meaning of Iman, the meaning of the kalima, what's so unique about it. So inshallah, we will carry on these topics. Like I said, we know these are all linked up, and inshallah, please tune in next week, Monday at 8:30 p.m.
You're listening to